Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to give it a few more seconds to just let people pop into the webinar. We have a very exciting topic, and I think probably pretty timely. I feel like it's either in the middle of your peak season if you're a summer host, or we're probably gearing up for your winter season here shortly. So it's going to be the perfect time to talk about our topic, which you already know because you signed up. But anyway, my name's Jamie. I'm a product marketing director here at AirDNA, and I also own a vacation rental in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. It's a beach town, so we are in the middle of our peak season. And our presenter today, if you've been on any of these before, is Tom. And Tom, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, wait, before we get to that, I do want to do a couple housekeeping things. This is being recorded, and we will be sending out the recording via email. So keep an eye on your inbox of the email you used to sign up for this webinar. And you can always pop your questions into the Q&A section or chat section of Zoom, and we'll get to those at the end. If we can't get to all of them for some reason, we will reach out to you and get your question answered. You can also join our AirDNA Insiders community on Facebook and always ask questions there. Tom and I are both in that community and answer what questions we can, but it's also great because you can hear from other hosts and investors and peers in the industry. So you get a lot of opinions. So I think that's about it. Tom, feel free to fill in anything that I missed, and why don't you take us away?
Perfect. No, I think you got everything. So yeah, I'm Tom Williams. I'm a learning specialist here at AirDNA. So what that means is I basically kind of help our customers and anyone who's generally interested in the short-term rental space understand how, I guess, first of all, how the industry works a little bit better, and then second of all, how to sort of use our products in conjunction with that to, really help them along their short-term rental journey, if you like. So yeah, obviously today we've got, as Jamie says, we've got a pretty interesting topic. So let me just bring up my screen. Let me just hit slideshow there. Perfect. So today we are going to be going over amenities and how you can kind of identify which ones you might need to succeed in your market, and generally, why amenities are important. So let's get started and let's answer that first question. Why are amenities important? So there's a lot of amenities that can make a difference to your listing, improving the overall revenue that you might see. So let's look at a bit of data to begin with, just sort of see what kind of, I guess, increases in rates or revenues and what kind of amenities might do that for you. So here we're looking at one bedroom listings, I should say, with hot tubs, with and without hot tubs, sorry, in select mountain towns in the US. You've got Gatlinburg on the left there, Boone in the middle, and Asheville. So the dark blue here, this is with hot tubs, and the light blue on the right is without. So you can see in Gatlinburg, it's a pretty big increase in terms of how much RevPAR you might see for your listing. RevPAR, if you're not too familiar with that term, is revenue per available rental. So that is basically just where we add up all the revenue that was generated on a specific time period, so a day, a week, month, and divide it by the total number of available listings. So it kind of evens out all the revenue across the number of available listings in the market. So it gives a more sort of accurate portrayal of the market's performance, if you like. So yeah, as I say, Gatlinburg, you can see there's a pretty big jump in terms of the RevPAR that's being generated by those properties with hot tubs. And then if you look at Boone and Asheville slightly better, again, there's an increase, but it's not too much. And the same goes for Boone. You can see in this case, not too much of an increase in the RevPAR, probably around $10 to $15. So, it's not a case of sort of one solution fits all, or one amenity is going to really make a difference to your listing. It's really down to how you kind of research your market and your property type and your guests and kind of what they want. So let's look at another example here. So here we got, again, one bedroom listings, and now we're looking at air conditioning, and this is taken into account ADR, or average daily rate. So on the left in the darker orange, you've got with aircon, and on the right without. Here you can see, and this is by region, sorry, in the US, you got West Pacific, West Mountain, etc. So here you can see the differences are a bit more, I guess, flat, not as stark, except for the West Mountains, where you can see in this case, having no aircon is actually more beneficial, and you see a higher average daily rate charged by the host in this instance. So, you know, not every amenity is going to necessarily make a huge difference. And in this case, I think with air conditioning, I think a lot of guests might see air conditioning as more of a service than an amenity, and it's more expected. So maybe that's why there's not such a big jump in the ADR that hosts are charging in this market.
Yeah, Tom, that's a great point. You know, if you already have a listing, you know, there's like a huge list on Airbnb and Vrbo of amenities you can pick. And you should definitely check off all of the ones you have. But this is an important reminder to think like a guest and not necessarily always like a host. You know, it might be that, like Tom said, people just kind of assume air conditioning is going to be in most modern homes. Honestly, as someone who lives in the mountain west of the US, I live in Denver. The reason my guess is that you're seeing the ADR for places without AC being higher is because a lot of the ski resort condos just don't have AC. They're high enough up in elevation that it's nice and cool usually, pretty much year round. And their peak season is in winter, obviously. So AC is just not as important. But in terms of thinking about something as an amenity, you know, if I go somewhere and they say they have a kitchen, I'm going to assume there are dishes and glasses and things like that. So I'm not necessarily being like, oh, I'm going to book that place because they say they have dishes. So just think about that. Make sure you cover your bases, but don't assume that that's going to increase your ADR significantly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always get confused when there's, you know, things like kitchen and, you know, additional bathroom are listed as if these things aren't kind of essential, you know. But yeah, I think it's important, as you say, it's important to think like a guest and think what you would want when you're looking for a short-term rental. So yeah, last bit of data in this form. So this is now looking at ADRs for one bedroom listings, and this is looking at multiple amenities, and this is across different market types. You can see at the bottom here, small city, all the way to sort of more coastal regions. So then we've then got hot tubs, pools, and air conditioning again. So you can see on the right here, the destination resorts, things like mountains and lakes, and again, those coastal regions. These are the ones that really sort of see the benefits of having those amenities, because the ADRs are higher. I mean, you could also argue that this is down to where they, you know, their location. Even without the amenities, they're still seeing higher ADRs than what we're seeing in these more urban areas. So it's, you know, again, it's all about factoring in your location and kind of, again, thinking what your guests might need or want in you know, depending on which market you're located in.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because we're going to move into this topic in a second. But I want to remind everyone that this particular chart is for one bedroom listings. So thinking about who you're trying to attract and who your listing is appealing to is important. If it's a one bedroom, you know, you're probably attracting more couples versus large families. And if it's a couple looking for a getaway, they're probably more interested in a hot tub than a large pool. So if we were looking at the ADRs for like a 4-bedroom, this might look this would absolutely look completely different. So I think that leads us nicely into our next topic.
So yeah, what amenities are best? And as kind of Jamie's mentioning there, it's, and we've already touched on it. You know, whilst amenities can have a positive impact on your listing and the rates you can charge, etc., it's not quite as simple as just adding a hot tub and upping your rates and expecting people to book based upon that. So these are just some things to consider when you are sort of looking at, you know, possibly adding more amenities or a new amenity to your listing. You know, location types. That's, you know, what kind of market you're in, as well as what kind of property do you own. Costs. There's obviously a lot of associated costs with these amenities: installation, maintenance, and insurance costs. And then finally, probably the most important, the guest. So first of all, what kind of guests you want to attract? You know, if some people are pretty strict on kind of the type of guest they want in their short-term rental, and if that is if that's kind of how you manage yours, you need to really sort of have amenities that kind of tie in with that, I suppose. And we'll go into that in a bit more detail. And then finally, that, like, what experience do you want the guest to walk away from your short-term rental? So let's begin by looking at the location in a bit more detail. As we saw in the previous charts, the location has a big impact on the kind of amenities you have. Those beach and coastal and lake and mountain regions, obviously, seeing higher ADRs because of, first of all, where they're located, but also the amenities they have. Another thing to consider is the type of property that you have. So, if you have a one-bed listing and, maybe you're just kind of appealing to like couples or just one guest, then kind of associate the amenities you have to that. So whether it's like a hot tub that you want to, if you want to kind of paint your listing as like a cozy mountain retreat, do that with that amenity. Cozy mountain retreat for couples with hot tub, for example. The other thing to consider is, different guests have different needs, so you need to tailor those amenities to target market, whether it's family vacations, multi-family vacations. If if you have a multi-family home, is it worth investing in a pool based on, multi-families trying to entertain kids, for example? But then you also need to take into account where you're located. If you're located on the beach, does it make sense to also have a pool? So these are things that I would just bear in mind. One thing I will say is, and based off our research, is that pet friendly is a very has sort of seen very positive returns in terms of ADR and RevPAR. And that might be something to consider going forward based on, again, the type of property you have and whether you want that kind of guest coming. So let's look into costs next. Adding an amenity, as with anything, should be seen as an investment, and your STR is an investment. So you need to get the right balance of initial cost against, the revenue that you can see in return. Material installation costs, that's going to be probably your most expensive outlay at the beginning. When do you expect to see a return on investment based on, that alone? Other things to consider are then, of course, maintenance, as well as running costs, things like hot tubs and pools, especially. They take a lot of upkeep, and if you're going to, be renting the place out all year, you need to keep it heated all year. That means you need to hire, potentially hire someone to be managing the chlorine levels and cleaning and all this kind of stuff. So again, that's just something to bear in mind, that it's not just a one-time thing. This is a long-term game, and you need to keep that in mind when you are sort of implementing, any potential costs into your pricing structure, how much you might need to increase your rates, and how that's going to affect your potential bookings going forward. And then the last thing is insurance. So obviously, you need to have specific STR insurance, and things like adding pools and hot tubs is going to increase your premium because it is a hazard. So again, that's something you need to bear in mind, because it's a triple pronged sword then, or fork, I should say. You've got the initial costs, the running costs, and then the insurance. Two of those are ongoing. So how does that factor into your pricing structure going forward, and how does that affect your sort of profit and loss margin going forward as well?
Yeah, definitely always check with your insurance carrier before adding a big amenity like a pool or a hot tub, or even like riding kayaks if you're on a lake or something like that. The last thing you want is to lose all that additional revenue to increased insurance premiums, or even worse, be dropped by your insurance carrier if they're super strict. I also want to just mention, as a host, to remember to factor in like your stress and your hassle. When I was buying my house in the Outer Banks, we specifically were looking for a place that could have a hot tub. We found one and we bought one, and we never ended up putting a hot tub in because my husband and I decided that like the cost of maintenance, the stress of what happens if it breaks in the middle of the season, and then it's a listed amenity that's not available, and I have to deal with potential refund requests, and then especially out in our area. Like many areas, it's really hard to get cleaning crews and maintenance crews. So just worrying about turnover and things like that. We decided the stress of dealing with all of that, especially being remote hosts, was just not worth any sort of extra revenue that we would generate. So yeah, just remember to factor that in too, because
Yeah.
your well-being is important.
And I think that's a good point about being like a remote host. You know, not as you well know, not every host is located next to their listing. And you know, if you do need to manage these things, you know, especially like a hot tub or anything else that kind of needs checking in on every now and again, that's another, you know, cost if you're going to have to be paying a person to do so. So yeah, that's a good point. And then moving on to the guests, as I said earlier, arguably the sort of most important thing to be thinking about here. So a survey from Airbnb found that 97% of guests factor amenities into their booking choices. So it's a really big thing to have top of mind with your listing. And you know, you're going to attract guests to your listing based on the amenities you have. And as I said earlier, you need to kind of cater your listing to the type of guest that you want to attract. As I kind of touched on earlier, it's all about kind of creating the experience that they're going to walk away from and think, wow, you know, that listing was kind of catered specifically to you know, what everything I was looking for. And you'll see that kind of reflected in the reviews. And overall, it's just going to give them a more positive experience. It's going to give you a more positive experience. And in the end, it's going to help you with improved reviews, improved ratings, and sort of improve your overall listing value, I suppose. So really focus on the guest experience, what you're trying to sort of help them walk away from with your listing. So yeah, I think guest experience should really be sort of the main takeaway that you walk away from this webinar with today. And then, so finally, how do you sort of stack up against your competition? So we do have a tool within our platform called My Properties, which I'm just going to quickly jump into now. Bear with me just a second. So it looks like this. So you can access this page if you have an active Airbnb, and you can connect it to our platform here in the My Property section. Once you do that, you can then sort of create this comp set. So this is a list of properties that will generate based on how similar they are to your listing. So similar in terms of, first of all, how close they are by distance. So you can see just under 400 meters for this top one here, and then how similar they are in terms of this configuration of bedrooms, bathrooms, and guests here. You can also then take it a step further. So we always recommend that you go through each one of these listings. If I click it on here, it'll take you to the listing link, and then you can really sort of assess how similar they are. But what you can do with the filters here is actually filter by amenity. So, you know, we've got the sort of top amenities in Airbnb listed here. And if you wanted to, you know, pets allowed, for example, we saw that was a big one earlier. If you wanted to look at all the comps that we've generated that allow pets, you can hit apply, and then I'll just show those comps on your comp set here. So it's really useful to help you sort of narrow down that competition based on, you know, we've already established they're similar in terms of how close they are to your listing, but it's also really helpful to sort of narrow it down by what kind of amenities they have and what kind of amenities you have. So they're your real direct competitors in your market, I suppose, because I said those amenities are going to really have a big part to play in whether someone possibly books your listing against another one. So I think it's a really, really useful tool to help you do that.
Yeah, and we often talk about those amenity filters in the reverse, you know, with a comp set, you want to compare yourself to, like, if you have a pool, you want to compare yourself to someone who has a pool. But as Tom just pointed out, you can kind of use it in reverse. At the top, you're seeing your metrics for the past 12 months. So if you don't have a pool or a hot tub and you're thinking about putting one in, you can add that in the filters. You can say, I only want to be compared to people who have a hot tub. And then you can kind of see what they're doing. Again, it'll help you decide, is it worth the extra cost? Like, you know, is the additional revenue that you could make going to cover the installation expense, insurance, and things like that? Real quick, Tom, because I think we have a couple more minutes. In the overview section, which even if you don't have a listing yet, you can come into this page. And this page is available with a free account as well. So if you're still looking and trying to decide where you might purchase a home, we have some top amenities a little bit further down on this page. So these are just some popular amenities like across the world. These won't necessarily change based on your market, but you can kind of see what key amenities you absolutely need to have because everyone else has them, and then some ones that you could potentially add to really stand out. So if you're looking in Santa Monica, California, if you could get a place with a hot tub or a pool, like you're not going to have as much competition. And if people are looking for listings and are filtering and they say, I must absolutely have a pool, you're going to be one of the few that pops up. So this is another great way to kind of just identify some opportunities within the market for amenities specifically. Okay, and I do think we have some questions, but Tom, I want to make sure you have time to wrap up everything you wanted to hit up.
Yeah, no, I think we've kind of hit it. And yeah, as you say, this is a really useful sort of section just to look at. Yeah, as you say, first of all, to see what you definitely need. Internet obviously is a must these days. And as you say, in this case, pools and hot tubs are in the minority. So possibly having those would sort of increase your appeal. But yeah, just to sort of wrap up, I guess the main thing to bear in mind is, and I hope what we've kind of conveyed is, there's no one size fits all solution to this. It does come down to sort of researching your market, researching your competitors, and sort of research into, how much things are going to cost you to actually implement these amenities to sort of really make it valuable long term. So yeah, I think that's the really sort of key thing to take away here.
Great, thanks, Tom. So now is a good time to jump into questions. Again, if you have any questions, just drop them into that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So first, we're going to start with a question from Diego. They're asking, because we did look at the 1-bedroom homes in the data we shared, and they're wondering for a 4-bedroom family-oriented home, which amenity is more important, pool, hot tub, what else? Again, like Tom just said, it's very dependent on your specific market. If you're in Orlando, Florida, which if you've ever been there, like every house has a pool. So if you don't have a pool, you might have trouble there. So it depends on where you're at, what the local competition is offering. But I will say, based on some past research that our research and economist team has done, in larger homes, pools do tend to be a very popular amenity, particularly homes that are really set up and geared towards families. And again, in like any sort of hot location, that's going to be really important. I'm not sure like a pool in Steamboat Springs, Colorado is going to do much for you, but in general, there is pools do well. And I will try to find, we have a blog post that talks about kind of popular amenities in general. I will try to find that and add that into the email when we send out this recording. Okay, and then we've had a couple questions about if you can filter by amenities when doing kind of some market comparisons here. Mm-hmm. And so Tom, why don't you take us through what we have, and then I'll just kind of comment from the product side of things.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, not really. There's no sort of way right now to compare markets by or sort of property types within a market by amenity. What you can do here in the market comparison tool is compare by property type and the number of people it can accommodate. The other thing you can do, which is a bit more sort of the sort of more heavy duty filters, I suppose, in the research section here, the occupancy rates and revenue. You can filter, you've got these filters on the right here where you can sort of narrow it down a bit more by property type, again by ratings and sort of number of bathrooms and that and things like that. And then you've also got the price tier filters here. So here you can kind of break it down by properties, sort of by where they sit in terms of, I guess, economy to luxury, I guess is the easiest way to do it. So we calculate this by looking at the ADRs generated by the properties, and we sort of in the market, and we kind of segment it. So for example, if there's 100 properties in this market, there'd be 20 in the budget section, 20 in the economy, 20 in the mid-scale, and up to luxury. And we do that at the start of the year and then analyze it each year to kind of move properties accordingly based on how they performed over that time with their ADR. But yeah, in terms of specific amenities, there's nothing you can do at the moment with these filters.
Yeah, but our product team is always working on improvements, and we love getting feedback from customers. So always feel free to send that to us. Or again, the Facebook group, the AirDNA Insiders Network, is a great place to share that. That is one of my specific jobs, is I gather a bunch of that information and send it over to our product team. So keep an eye out the second half of this year. Hopefully we'll have some exciting updates for everyone. Zach is wondering if they can add a property that's yet to be acquired. You cannot add a property specifically into the My Property section. You do have to have a live Airbnb listing to connect that. And it must be a listing that you own. What you could potentially do, especially if a property is already being used as a short-term rental, is you could put the address into Rentalizer and then take a look. Once you have a paid subscription at the bottom, it'll give you my comps. So it could show up there if it's already being listed, because it's obviously going to be as close to the address you put in, because it is that address. So that is one way that you could kind of see what it's doing. But if you don't already own the property and it's not a short-term rental, you can't add it in specifically here quite yet. Okay, let me see. Sebastian, yeah, like I said, we're always working on, sorry, Sebastian is wondering, or would find it helpful if they could use Rentalizer with a yearly rental cost instead of a purchase price. This sounds like a rental arbitrage situation. So Sebastian, I'll pass that one along to our product team as well. So thank you, everyone. We're coming up on time. Again, if I missed your question for some reason, I'm really sorry, but we will get back to you via email. And we will also be sending out this recording. And again, go and join our Facebook group. It's a great place to ask these questions. And then you don't get just our opinions. You get everyone's opinions, and lots of different hosts and investors with lots of different, priorities and different locations. So it's always good to get different insights.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else, Tom?
No, I think we've covered it. Yeah, thanks very much, everyone, for joining today. And yeah, thanks, Jamie. And yeah, we have another webinar in 2 weeks' time, which is looking at remote management, or promoting your listing. Apologies. But yeah, feel free to join that one as well. And again, thanks very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.